Welcome to Davidtree's Love Who You Are podcast. If you're new to Davidtree, we certify meditation teachers and offer online courses in yoga for anxiety and teaching yoga to children. Davidtree's been a leader in the wellness industry for almost 30 years. I'm your host, Candice Lapointe. Join me as I connect with insightful guests who share the surprising places their meditation, yoga, and wellness journey have taken them. Navigating the human experience can feel perilous at times, but our guests share how embracing their radical uniqueness and applying self-compassion can change everything. Hi, friends. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Love Who You Are podcast. We truly do feel so grateful to have you here listening as we explore fresh perspectives on topics we hold dear to our hearts. In this episode, I'm joined by equine-guided wellness facilitator and yoga teacher trainer, Tammy DeGraw, someone I studied with in my first Davidtree training. You'll notice that we refer to being from the same kula, and kula is a Sanskrit word for a community that comes together for a sacred purpose. Tammy has taken numerous Davidtree programs and trainings and is on track to receive our Advanced Professional 1,000-Hour Certificate. I was thrilled to reconnect with her to hear about the impact that yoga and her partnership with horses has had in supporting her to make life-saving shifts to lead the life that she desires. From divorce to the loss of a beloved horse, Tammy authentically shares how yoga and horse wisdom has helped her to stay grounded, heart-centered, and true to herself. She explains the profound impact this practice has had for her clients too. A highlight for me was how Tammy describes the partnership she has with her horses, their need for choice autonomy. The freedom and trust that she's created with these animals is so touching, and it impacted me in ways I didn't expect going into this interview. If you're anything like me, Tammy will make you think about horses in a completely different way. Throughout our conversation, I was reminded of the power of authentic communication, listening, and holding space. All this without judgment, analyzing, or offering advice. It's amazing the clarity that can come about when we have the freedom to speak aloud and process our experiences. When's the last time that you were able to share authentically from your heart without interpretation, judgment, or the desire to fix something or someone? Okay, let's get to it because the horses have a lot to share. Enjoy this episode. Tammy, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. How are you, Candice? It's so great to be here.
Feeling just so grateful. It's a kind of rainy afternoon here. I've got myself a chaga tea. It feels just like the most amazing time to be sitting down and talking with you about all the things. So thanks so much for coming on here. I know that you're a woman of many facets and you have a lot going on. So I so appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here, Candice. Thank you for having me. And I'm really excited to be here doing this podcast with you.
I know that you've got a lot going on in way of your farm and the horses and all this prep work, I'm sure, and getting ready for winter and the weather that's to come. So yeah, being indoors right now while it's raining, it feels good. We go back a little bit because we took our 200-hour YTT with Davidtree together. Do you remember that?
I do, Candice. It was an amazing, special time. It's just such an incredible experience. I thought that 200-hour yoga training in London and our special kula and all the people that we met and, came together. It was really a beautiful experience.
And that's just it. It is really something special too when we get to sit down again with people from that kula because we went through something together and it was life-changing. For me, at least it was. And I know that I think a lot of people have that experience as well. And
yeah,
so
I definitely believe that too. For me,
right.
It was very life-changing.
And do you want to go on a little bit more about your 200 hours shaped you and how it changed you?
Sure. So I took the 200-hour yoga training to deepen my knowledge of yoga, not knowing exactly where it really did lead me. It was quite incredible. I had no idea that it was going to be so life-changing, literally for me. I would say, I've said before that I think that yoga really did change my life in an incredible way. Like literally, I think I would say saved my life. Yeah, I think It was a pivotal time for me when I started taking my yoga training. There was lots going on in my life. And, just doing the yoga training with Carolyn and Tamika being the founders of it, with their expertise in what they do and bringing that all into David Tree and all their training that they, all the teachings that were a part of that were just so in depth. And that explorational journey, really. It was just really a journey through so many layers, I think, of my life. I love the self-determination piece that they really let us find our own way through yoga and explore our own yoga the way we wanted to teach. I just found it really life-changing, to be honest. It was a huge part of my whole life the way it is now. It was just hearing the things like stand in your mountain, feeling solid in your mountain, even, like how mountains are so strong and, how they weather all the storms of life and they're still strong and solid. I just found that really to be an empowering piece that I still to this day, will really draw on, about standing in my mountain or feeling rooted in the tree pose, for instance, just really bringing all those beautiful poses and flows into my life, probably every day, really. Yeah.
Who knew that something, as simple as mountain pose and standing there could have such a large impact and pave the way for the rest of the way that your life was going to unfold. And it is such an interesting thing to reflect back onto that time, because I don't know about you, but I was a new mom at that point in time, and I was kind of trying to figure myself out and figure out who I was again. And so I think that that's what kind of drew me to the teacher training. But then I'm sure, as you experienced too, there was just so much more that unfolded and that was unpacked. Do you recall, I remember there was a specific instance for me in teacher training that things just kind of the walls fell away for me. And I was able to feel like I could start walking forward in my true self as my true self. And I want to know, did you have some sort of a similar experience, or how did it work out for you in terms of whole reassurance piece that, you really grabbed hold of these foundational poses and these foundational concepts to then walk forward in your life?
Yeah, I think honestly, there were many pivotal moments like that for me. I don't think I really knew the authentic me. I was a mom, I was this, I was that, working, had a career, being a mom, being a daughter, being a sister, being a wife. I was really that was sort of my identity. I had a lot of things I loved doing, but I think I just really started to unfold a lot about who I really was and what I really wanted and what I really needed, and how I have that sovereignty over my life, that I can make these choices that I needed to make at the time. Yeah, I would honestly, those would just be for me a lot of the really strong foundations for me was just standing in my powers, feeling empowered, feeling strong, something I still draw on often, even if I'm not doing yoga, it could be something else going on in my life, with even personal boundaries, or it's just, I think the yoga training just has so much to offer us throughout our life. It's not just doing yoga on the mat. It's really living yoga, right? Living yoga off the mat, I feel, was just really what I took away from our yoga training. For me, was just really learning to live yoga. Just so many amazing experiences came from that yoga training.
I think you really nailed or sent a point home for me there with the whole piece around being able to bring these yoga concepts or living your yoga every single day, because there's not just, one way of showing up for yoga. That yoga shows up for us in all aspects of our life, and that we get to carry it with us. And it's so special to be able to have witnessed you and your magical amazingness come through the training. And I was a part of your practice teach. So in our 200-hour teacher training, at the end, there was a practice teach that would happen, and you would be broken up into small groups, and I remember your yoga just being so beautiful, Tammy, and just feeling super connected with all of our Kula mates. And I know that Carolyn often had said we are like a soup and we're each bringing our own ingredient into this mixture. And there's no other Kula like the Kula that we had. And so I actually held on, and I wish I would have brought it here, but I held on to that mandala you had based your entire practice teach session off of. And I kept that since our training, which was wrapped up, in 2019?
Yeah,
Or
2019. June of 2019.
It was just, it's such a fun process for me to like think back and just knowing that you have made an impact too in people's lives, in my life, right? So
thank you. I remember your teach too. It was beautiful. I totally remember the room that we were in doing it. It was amazing. It's really special, isn't it?
It is,
the
totally.
yoga training. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you've talked about how yoga has you've been able to harness some of these concepts that we've learned in our teacher training and move forward in your life. Can you talk to me a little bit more about how that process has unfolded for you?
So during the training, we had just recently bought our farm, actually just before the training had started, and had moved 2 horses here. So I've had horses for many, many years, for like over 40 years. But, it was this experience of now having them back in my life on my farm. And then I knew that I really wanted to combine my horses with the yoga trainings, really harnessing and collaborating with the horses on this experience with yoga and horses, because horses are just so grounding, like yoga, right? They're so grounding. They bring such a peace and bliss and joy into my life. And I mean, there's been many studies and research done on the healing power of horses. And I just thought the healing power of yoga and then bringing in the horses and just combining that in different ways, I thought could be really beneficial to so many people. Like I knew for me that the two combined had really, really, I would say, catapulted my life into a completely different way. I ended up going through a divorce within a couple of years. Like so much of my life was really changing and unfolding, and layers were falling up, I wouldn't say apart, but they were peeling away just to get to my really authentic self and to live my authentic life, my own authentic self. And I just think the power of yoga and the power of horses, they're both their healing and their magic combined really brought me to where I wanted to be. And it was shortly thereafter the yoga training, I wanted to open my own business, and it's called Horse to Heart Yoga and Wellness, where I could combine my yoga teachings. And then at that time, it was like yoga classes, but also really talking about the power of horses, bringing in their power and their magic into the yoga classes and the yoga flows. And then I started offering retreats with the horses and yoga and meditation. And then I did a training called Horse Wisdom Yoga. There was a wonderful lady there. She offers yoga training as well, but she has a training called Horse Wisdom Yoga, and where she really dives deep into combining the yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga with the horses, and had a really deep, I would say a really deep offering as well. And I took that program with her. It was over 5 days. It was an intensive day. You have to be a 200-hour yoga teacher already to do the training. And we just dove deep into really about the horses on a deeper level, like scientifically, how we as humans can really benefit from their healing power, and how we can connect with them and really listen to them. And I've always had that experience with horses as well, but it was really nice to deepen it with her and her knowledge. She's a very intuitive and an empath as well. So just having somebody to really connect with it also had the same ideas. And she was really blossoming in that area, in equine-guided wellness really is what it is. And so I started that as well. So I took, I deepened that training with her and then brought even more into my own offerings as well with the Horse Wisdom Yoga as part of it. And so it's been a really great experience that way. And then opening up our School of Yoga has been the newest thing that I've been working on, is doing a 200-hour yoga teacher training. So I really know the power of yoga and how it can heal and help and, be anything you want it to be. I mean, people can sign up for yoga just for whatever their own journey. I mean, it's totally it's your own self exploration and your own thing. But I just saw the benefits of it. There's just so much research and studies done on how yoga can help you. But I feel combining the horses and nature together have a huge impact on helping people. So we offer horse wisdom yoga sessions and horse to heart retreats and just sort of an array of things, I guess you could say, that we do here at our wellness farm.
It's beautiful, Tammy. So thanks so much, Tammy. That's so beautiful. And I kind of wanted to backtrack a little bit because you said that you understood the power and magic of horses. It's kind of always been with you. And so, man, there's just so many things that kind of went off in my head while you were talking. And you've mentioned that you had horses. Obviously, they must have been boarded somewhere else. Is that what they call it when?
Boarding. Yeah,
boarded.
I've boarded
Okay.
horses. Yeah.
Okay. So, but then you moved to your own farm, and so you had horses for a majority of your life. Is that correct?
Yeah. I grew up on a farm too, and then had a farm previously. They had been boarded for a while. So then getting my own farm again and having them home together. Well, I had the one, and then we actually bought another one to be with our horse. They were in love. The two horses were completely in love, and I just couldn't separate them.
Of course.
So we had bought our one horse, and now we have 4 here.
It's funny how that happens, right?
Yeah, I would have more if I had a bigger farm. Trust me, there would just be every color, and we'd have all kinds of horses. Yeah.
Oh, so can you tell me a little bit more? Like, I understand that there is it called equine therapy?
It's not really like we don't do therapies. So
right. Okay.
I'm not a therapist, but it's called equine-guided wellness or equine-guided assisted learning. So basically the horses and I work with clients when we're doing that sort of like if we're not doing retreats. In our retreats, we do the equine-guided wellness as well. Like everybody gets a chance to do that, to experience it. But I do have clients that come just for equine-guided wellness sessions where we do just different sessions with the horses. So the horse's electromagnetic field of their heart is like 5 times larger than ours, right? Like it's huge. The power of their heart is amazingly huge. You know how people say like listen to your heart, and that our heart really knows more about what we're thinking and feeling more than our brain does. So the horses are the same way, intuitively always feeling everything about them, right? Because they're prey animals. So in order to exist, they have to have those instincts where they're using all their senses and they have such an awareness. But if one horse is upset, they all know it just by their heartbeats and their heart rates. But with the horses, such a powerful heart in that electromagnetic field, they literally can influence our own heart rate. Like if somebody's upset or angry or mad or anxious or stressed, like even just being in the presence of a horse, you don't even have to be that close to them because their electromagnetic field is so large that you can have the effects of our hearts basically almost syncing with the heart rate of a horse, which their heart rate is different than ours, obviously. So it has a calming effect on our body and our nervous system. It helps to regulate us. And when we're regulated and when we're in that coherent space with them, they really, really connect with us. Like they can mirror our moods. They can really help people open up. I experience this so often. It is quite incredible where some people will kind of come like pretty much shut right down and just being with the horses, brushing them, walking beside them, or not doing anything, just being, right? That's what a lot of this is about, is just being. As humans, we're always doing and doing and doing. And when we learn to just be, like they're just being, they're basically in a meditative state quite often. So when we're with them, our hearts are calming down and syncing with theirs. We become calmer, more peaceful, less stressed, less anxious, and we can really kind of come home to our own hearts.
That sounds beautiful. And even hearing you describe it has had like a calming effect on me. I'm like having some imagery of just being by horses and really
Yeah.
feeling that powerful state of relaxation. And that's
Hmm.
really where the healing happens, isn't it? So interesting that I'm sure some of your students come and they're obviously dealing with all sorts of things, and the horses are able to bring down their
Hmm.
their nerves and help them relax and heal.
They help regulate our nervous system, just like yoga does, right? The yoga and the breath work and the meditation, how
Right.
that helps our nervous system regulate. It's the same thing with being with horses. So combining even breath work and meditation out with the horses or near the horses really has even a more powerful effect. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. They've been my healers. I would say going through some pretty, intense times, like I was saying, the divorce, and just being out with them, between the yoga and the horses being grounded and rooted, just bringing in all that beautiful energy help pull me through,
Mm-hmm.
and, I've even had it where the horses, even if I'm anxious, like they'll walk up and they'll just like stand in front of me and breathe really heavy into my face, like as if to say, breathe, let's
Mm-hmm.
breathe together. And I will just stand in my mountain with them, or I'll even do yoga out in the field with them, and they will come and hold space and they'll stay really close. And they just have this beautiful calming effect on people. And even with my clients, I'll say, let's just stand and breathe with the horse, like watch the horse's belly go in and out, and let's match our breath with their breath. And it can be very powerful.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that
Mhm.
this practice, like, I'm just wondering, I haven't been around a lot of horses in my life, and
Mhm.
I have to be honest, I find them quite intimidating. They're big and large,
Yeah.
and I don't know why my senses feel a little bit intimidated in the maybe the unpredictability. But from what I'm gathering, you're saying that they're like a mirror of what you're like the person in front of them is feeling, and so I think it's just a matter of maybe taking note about my own feelings when I'm with them. And
Yes.
like you're saying, maybe it was a matter of not necessarily having the instruction to like, okay, like I need to just come down a couple of notches and know that I'm safe. And um,
Yeah.
if you already have a 500-hour YTT, we have a 1,000-hour yoga training that you can take from anywhere in the world. David Tree has a 5-star reputation and is known for creating programs that focus on student self-determination, self-compassion, and embracing your radical uniqueness. Talk to us about charting your unique path forward. We'd love to have you join our incredible community.
A lot of people are scared of horses because they're huge. They're
Mm-hmm.
big. They're 1,000 pounds, and we have to be safe around them. So, I mean, if some people are really scared of horses, I will put them in often at first. My horses are put into their stalls. They're not stalled very often, but they know if we're having a client coming that hasn't been near the horses before, I'll put them in their stalls, and they're quite happy because they understand what's going on. And we do a thing like with horse wisdom yoga, it's called intuitive introductions, where we're going out there and intuitively meeting the horses. And the horses are in their stall, or they could be out in the field and we're on the outside in a paddock. It all depends on what the situation is and what the horses really want to do, because they really lead the show. They lead the practice that we're doing. Like, they're not made to go in their stalls, but it's an ask. And if they are in agreement, trust me, they will go in their stalls. If they don't think that that's what the client needs or what they're wanting to do, they're out in the field and we're in another field or we're near them, but we're doing an intuitive introductions, just letting the people that come just get comfortable around the horses. We'll do breath work. We'll do a body scan. We'll do a breath work. Like, we don't just go right out with the horses until that person's ready. And yeah, so that's normally how it will really always go play out. And often, I've had people come before. It's like, oh, I hope I don't get the big horse. Well, here comes the big horse. What do you mean you don't get the big horse? That's who you're getting today. And they know.
Right. It's the big horse has chosen them and
The
knows that
big horse
they
has chosen them then to
right.
work through that mirroring. It's like you're afraid, or you're, for some reason, you're not maybe wanting to be vulnerable, or there's that fear, but they're there to mirror that and go, it's okay. We're going to work on trust or vulnerability or whatever's coming through with the client and the horse, because the horses are the ones that pick up all the energy. I'm kind of just the facilitator because I'm so in tune with my horses and their behaviors and their thoughts and their feelings. That way I can tell like what's going on between the client and the horse, because they're all about energy. You know, they're just so much about energy.
What an important lesson, though, too, right? To return back to ourselves and trust our own instincts and energies, right? Because I think that a lot of the times we forget those ways and choose to blatantly ignore them, the message that we're
Yeah,
being sent, right? Because we
exactly.
don't want to maybe accept the messages that are being sent times,
Yeah.
right? Touched on an interesting point about like the invitation. The horses are invited into their stalls. They're not made to go in. And of course,
Right.
if this is the right path for your client, it'll all unfold as it should. You'll go on a little bit about more about that. I think that you maybe have like a little bit of an untraditional way of connecting with your horses. And can you give us a little bit of a timeline as to how this has shifted for you?
So I've had horses for over 40 years of my life. As a young girl, my first experience was at my grandparents' house when a man was riding his horse down the street, and I could hear clip clop, and this is in the city. I'm like, what
Mm.
is that noise? I was probably 5 or 6, not very old. And I remember running to see what it was, and it was a man on this big, beautiful horse, and I was like in love that second with horses from then forward. So yeah, they've just always been something that I've been drawn to. I didn't get my first horse until I was, I think, 13, like I was in grade 9. But I got to go with my friend to her riding lessons, and my friend had horses, so I got to be near horses and would go to the barns with her and just be near them. I was just totally in love with them. And then my parents said, well, if you can learn to look after a horse. So I got to look after one, like be a steward to one of her horses and go clean its stall and feed it every day and look after it. And I've got to be with her horse. And then I got my own horses after that. And I've always had them. There was a time when I didn't have my one horse when my son got really sick and injured. And I had leased her out for a little while, and then the girl bought her. But I have her back now. And that was always the deal for now. Yes. But if you ever want to sell her or anything like that, please let me have her back. And it was interesting because it was right after my horse wisdom yoga, or actually it was during my horse wisdom yoga training. The Fotini, the lady that was doing it, she goes, I see a dark horse coming into your life. Well, while I was at the training, the girl messaged me
Oh my gosh.
about Jenna. We're needing to rehome, would you be interested in having Jenna back? And I'm like, yes, please. So, and I had Jenna since she was 2. So there was a couple of years where she was out of my life because my son was quite sick and I couldn't look after him and her, and it wasn't fair to her anymore. And this girl loved Jenna. So needless to say, I have Jenna back, and she's been in my life for 21 years. I've had her for a very long time. And before that, I had horses as well. But yeah, so it started out as an equestrian, riding, showing, training, doing lessons, doing the equestrian life with horses. And then it was during my yoga training where I was really, evolving into a different person, my own authentic self. The layers were peeling off and not feeling like boxed in anymore and controlled. I felt like it was time to look at what I was doing with horses. And I had rode and showed and did all kinds of things with horses, but I didn't feel good doing it anymore. Something was not feeling good about it. My one friend said, why aren't you riding anymore? Like, you're never riding anymore. And I'm like, I don't feel right riding anymore. Like, I don't want to put her in. Nothing against riding. For anybody, it's not a judgment. It's just, for me, it didn't feel right anymore. And my horse that horse who I have, Mercedes, did not want to be rode. Like, I could feel it. I could sense it. I just had so much more joy being on the ground beside her. I felt happy and energized with her, and we'd have fun just brushing and walking around the arena, or just being. I would just sit in her stall with her while she ate and just listen to her munch on her hay, and I would meditate. And it just became a very different partnership with her and all horses then. Nothing against people that ride and show and the race horses and all of that. But I think there's some horses that don't want to do that. Some, I think, have pleasure doing that. It makes them happy to do it, but mine didn't and don't. And it's kind of like they get to have their own autonomy, given choice. Like everything's choice. There are times when it's like, well, we really have to do this, but it's for your own good. And I'm not doing anything that, I know that you can't do. The vet's coming or something like that, or the blacksmith, but they're ready for it. We work up to it in most cases. And when you give horses that opportunity to be heard and listened, because they really do, they can show us to listen. I just don't go up and pet my horses. That'd be like our own, when we talk about boundaries, it's same with horses. They have that right to say no too. I don't just go up and just love all over my horses just because I want to feel that. Of course, I love touching them and hugging them and petting them, but I'll go up and stand with them in their space. And if they come to me, like they'll let me know it's okay to touch them. Most of my horses love to be touched, but there's one in particular, and Harley, that passed away a year ago, was all about boundaries. It's like, you're not touching me unless I say so. And I love that. And that was a really good lesson that I think as humans, we can all learn, right? When we have that reflection, we can learn that wisdom from them. We don't need to be touched unless we say so, or in my space unless I say so, unless you're invited into it. So it's the same with the horses. They're invited to partake with the clients, with their feeding. When I want to feed them, even I'll stand there and just ask them, can you please all go in a stall so I can give you your own food? Because they all want to eat each other's food and they all know, okay, I'll just go in my own stall. Some of them will say, no, I'm not. 2 of them will and 2 of them won't. But, they get to have that choice. And it's for their own good, really, if one of them or 2 of them will go in their stall so the other 2 don't take their food. And they understand that. I'll say, like, if you go in there, you don't have, Jetta coming and taking it on you when she's done. It really does work when you give horses that experience of freedom and choice. They will trust and bond so deeply with their human, with their steward. So even riders, if they really want to partner with their horses, it just doesn't always have to be about, I'm coming there and brushing you or putting your saddle on, we're riding, we're doing this, we're doing that, and then throwing you back in the stall or back out in the field. If we give them that experience and let them kind of explore their environment as well and really partner with you in a different way than always doing, and just be with them, they will totally open up their hearts.
That's so beautiful, Tammy. What I'm hearing you say is a little bit of a let go, kind of little that I know about horses. Like I've heard this whole concept of they're herd animals. And so idea of like looking for a leadership. And I feel like what you're explaining is just so beautiful. Like your leadership, it's not about control. It's about letting them make the decisions and have the choice. And then in reflection, like there's just this beautiful relationship that has evolved between you and your horses. And perhaps there isn't such a need for control.
Yeah, it really is about letting go. They are a herd animal and they have a lead. They take turns leading and protecting each other. Like that's another thing, like reflection piece that we can learn from horses. Like even just some of the practices we'll do is observing the herd and how that can reflect our own life. So you'll see them all sometimes taking turns being the lead. 2 might rest, 2 might stand in kind of guard, or one will rest and they'll all kind of protect each other in a protective way. But even like as humans, we do need to be like the steward, a bit of a leader. I mean, they're 1,000-pound animals, so we can't have them totally controlling every situation. We have to be safe and have that as well. But yeah, like I think just giving them also choice and explaining what's going on. And I know it sounds weird, but we can listen to their body language and watch their body language to get something done. If I want to go pick up their feet, I'm not going to just walk right out there and like, let me pick up your feet, like, because I need to clean them. I'm going to walk out. I'm going to like watch their body language. They're running right now. And I'll stand beside. So it's like with an intention. I go out with an intention. My intention is I need to pick up your feet and clean them right now. And it's not a forced thing. It's still like a leader, and I'm going to help look after you because I need to clean your feet. But if I give them that chance to pick up their feet and then I clean it and then I put it down, it's not a forced situation. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very beautiful, because I feel like perhaps there is just another school of thought about how interaction with horses and animals in general usually goes between
Yeah.
humans and animals, correct? Like,
That's right. Yeah. So true.
I can really appreciate that. I'm just thinking about how the shifts that maybe you've seen with animals and the clients that you've had coming to your farm, and initially, like you've mentioned, being closed off, and you explain of the ways in which people heal, or how healing has happened from the horses.
So I've had a client over the summer come for a while. Actually, she's quite a young person. And when she first came, she seemed pretty closed off. Her family were concerned about her. I always say, like, I'm not a therapist, but being near the horses could help. And they had heard about what we were doing. And the young person seemed quite shut down and was suffering from some depression and just some things going on in their life. So it was baby steps out with the horses. The horses were in their stalls and it was interesting. Before the young person came, the horses like already knew. They were running around with all this youthful, playful energy. They were running, and the two boys were rearing up and playing, and the girls were running. And I'm like, they never do this. So I always can tell that they're already picking up on what's going to be happening, what's coming. And they all agreed to go in their stalls. And so we start with intuitive introductions, and it's really about like that yoga, getting into our own body, listening to ourselves, connecting with ourselves. And we did some breath work, and we talked about like, horse safety. And, we go through all of that. There's a lot of things that happen before we just go out with the horses, and we talk about safety and boundaries, and they're always with me, and I keep them as safe as possible. The person started asking about, the horses and how old they were, and they're, whether they were male or female. And I said, well, why don't I'll tell you their names, and why don't you see if you can decide who's who? And the person pretty like got almost all of them right off the bat. And it was so interesting to see her really come into her own, like trusting her own intuition about them. And then we did that. And then I taught her about with the horses, how we ask permission. We just don't go up and pet them. And I said, you can ask them, may I pet you? So she went up to one of my horses named Chant and, may I pet you? May I touch you? And he started nodding his head up and down. And and you could just see her light right up and smiling. And then I taught her about, how we let them even choose their brushes. So I said, here's a bunch of brushes. You can take a handful and ask them, what brush would you like me to brush you with? Or would you like me to brush you? And, yes. And then they will touch the brush usually that they want to be brushed with. And like, she just found it so powerful, but it was a lot about choice and giving them the choice, but letting her really have that connection with the horse and learn to trust them, that they were there to help hold space for her. So she came for quite a while. I do have another new client, similar stuff where you just see things blossoming, the smiles are coming and tears. And we do expressive arts after our every session. We do an expressive art, whether it's painting or journaling or just depending on what all occurred is what we'll do after that. But yeah, so it's really, I've worked with people in the emergency services that have suffered PTSD. They've come out and spent time with the horses. I know they've told me that it's just been so helpful for their own healing, just to have that place where they really feel like they belong, because the horses are just so non-judgmental, and you just show up as you, and there's just no judgment, and they're just there to help you heal, right? We're just being in that energy, that heart field with them, brushing them, petting them, just standing with them. It's been quite amazing. So in yoga, remember, we would sit back to back and we would just talk about anything that
Mm-hmm.
we needed to talk about. And the other person couldn't say, no advice, no, you can't say, you're just there holding space. So it's the same thing when like an exercise like that with the horses. And I'll stand back to give the client privacy, but they'll stand there with the horse and just do the same thing. And the horse will just hold space. And then I'll say, okay, now you just stand with the horse and connect with your heart and let the horse speak too. It's a really powerful experience when people get to just really express what they need to say without anybody judging or giving advice.
Totally. I completely remember that exercise and how powerful it was.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Not feeling that you need to script yourself in any sort of way, to like hold back in fear of judgment, or even
Mm-hmm.
to, ensure that somebody was not going to give advice in a particular way. And then also being able to just kind of work through things. Sometimes, saying them out loud really helps
Yeah,
to bring things to your own like attention. It's not
it
until we actually
does.
speak the words out loud that we understand how we're feeling about something, or how we can really start to dig deep into that situation or issue that we're trying
Mm-hmm.
to figure out. um wow. And so you mentioned that you've worked with EMS or paramedics
Emergency
or
services. Yeah,
emergency
emergency services, I would
services.
say. Yeah, EMS and fire. Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting because I came across an article on social media recently, and I think it was one of the major news outlets that was going on about yoga, or sorry, horses, and I believe veterans, and
Mm-hmm.
the PTSD piece. I could see really how that perhaps relationship with horses could help somebody that has suffered and is now dealing with PTSD in whatever realm or
Yeah.
facet they are dealing with it in. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think, and working with like a therapist would definitely be even deeper and a more empowerment experience, even more so as well. But just being around the horses, I just see, like, just for myself, but even with my clients, just an increased feelings of happiness and
Mm.
joy and feeling like they're a part of something, right? Like they are a constant that you can count on. And not even that, it's just all about them helping us heal. And horses have just been around for thousands and thousands of years with humans. Like we have partnered with horses forever. They're the one animal I think that they say that has been with humans the longest. Whether it would be war or work horses or you name it, they've done it. They've been there for our own enjoyment, whether racing and all that stuff and riding. But they really are just really beautiful partners for humans. And I think that showing people a different way of being with horses, we don't always have to use them, that we can be with them and partner with them, and not when they're no good for racing anymore, as they say, no good anymore. They're, throwing them out to pasture or shipping them to wherever they're shipping them. I just think if they like, that's kind of what I feel like my passion and purpose is in life, is to show people that there's so many other things and ways to
Mm-hmm.
connect with horses. They're just so healing. But I kind of lost track there. But what I
Mm-hmm.
was going to say, it's not just about us healing. It's about every time I feel my horses help a person heal, they also get so much out of that. They heal too. They really do.
And so, can you tell us who you all have on your farm with you? You've mentioned a
Yes.
couple of horses already, but I got
Yeah.
four.
I have four. I have Mercedes, who was a racehorse, and I rescued her. I've had her for 6 years, coming up very soon, 6 years. And so she was one of the first ones here on the farm. And then Harley, who passed away a year ago, unfortunately, he was a rescue as well. From a day away, being shipped to a place that no horse should ever be shipped to. And that was a horse that really taught me the most about boundaries and trust and strength. That guy. So, and then we have the two, I have Jenna, the one that I said that came during my horse wisdom yoga. I've had her for a really, really long time, like over 20 years. And her and I did a lot of stuff together. I was the equestrian on her. We rode and showed and jumped and you name it, we did it. We polo, like we had a blast. She didn't want to be rode anymore, and she's not, and she never will be. And that's a promise to her. And then I have my two newest horses came a year ago, a little over a year ago, after Harley had passed, a few months after Harley had passed. They had come into my life unexpectedly. I wasn't planning on getting another horse because I was still really grieving the loss of Harley. And I went with a friend to go see these horses. And the one came up, his name is Firefly. And he came up and he just put his head right on my heart. And I started crying, and because they just know, right? They're energy driven, and they're all about the chakras, right? Like our chakras. So he was like right on my heart, and just stood there for the longest time. And those two horses had never been rode, which was I really loved about them. They were very, very, they got to be horses, but they were still pretty controlled. I would say controlled, as in they were put in box stalls. They were made to do things. So when I came into their life, they were not used to somebody doing yoga in a field and Reiki on them, and choice. So it's been a year that they've been here, and they are just finally understanding that they get to have a lot of choice in almost everything that they do. They're not made to do something. They will do it agreeingly, for the most part, but they get to just be horses. So yeah, there's Firefly. And I love that about him. I think he was really meant to come in because, like, fireflies being the light in the dark, right? So he was kind of that light bringing me out of the darkness at that time. And then there's Chant. His name is Chant. And I love that name too, because I think of chanting and all of that. And he's just an amazing, amazing, sensitive horse. So highly sensitive. So the two boys are highly sensitive, and the girls are too, but the boys not having so much humans touching them or near them, they're very intuitive and very highly sensitive in a way. So they're really been really, really great at partnering with our clients, especially our newest clients that we've had. Like, they're really picking up on energy, and like they've really shown up for the newest clients that we've had. It's been an incredible experience to watch them blossom into these beautiful, wise horse teachers, even more so, like bringing their wisdom. And they love that purpose. They truly do. So yeah, there's the four of them. They're amazing. Mercedes, Jenna, and they're all standing at the field there. They know we're talking about them. Yeah. So yeah,
amazing. I was going to ask that. I was going to say, like, how the shift that you've seen in the newest horses, Firefly and Chance, since not have been rode or used in that sort of way, and then of course now you're saying that their intuition has just kind of blossomed tenfold, and so it's so beautiful. And I totally believe that there's no such thing as a coincidence, or how these animals have come into your life and how they've impacted you. It's really beautiful, Tammy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so do you, like, it must be a lot taking care of these animals though, right? Like, yeah,
it's a labor of love. It's a lot of work. It really is. It's a lot of work, especially in the winter. Huge.
Right. Why would you say that in the winter?
I don't have hydro I don't have hydro at my barn. I have I run lights and stuff. And I don't have water at the barn. So in the winter, I have a flexible hose that I'm running from the garage very quickly in the cold before it freezes, turning on water. It's just a lot of little moving parts that have to, work. So, or if not, we're carrying out many jugs of water to fill up their water. Right now, with the rain that we've been having, I'm on clay, so it can get quite muddy. So it's really navigating, keeping them healthy and safe as possible. I was this morning reaching out early in the morning to a man that has all kinds of sand and or shavings, dump loads I'll have brought in as soon as the land gets even drier. And I do it every year, but I can't believe how much mud I have right now. So I've moved the horses to another field. So, that's moving fencing and moving their great big feeder. And then with the mud, we can't get hay all the way out to their little barn that I have their hay in, the hay barn. I have to usually I'll rent one of those big storage containers. So my hay guy can come in the winter and load it up with hay near, and then I wheelbarrow out all the hay. So it's a lot. I mean, it's a great workout. I get a lot of working out in the winter to work at it. But honestly, it's just a labor of love, and I'm honored to be stewarding them and looking after them. And it's really, I get more out of it than all the work.
I'm sure there's just so much lessons even in the like the
Mm,
chopping wood and carrying water legitimately, right? That comes
yeah.
along with it.
Yeah.
So beautiful, Tammy. And you've mentioned that you are starting up a school of yoga. And so,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, yoga has had such a profound impact on your life, and I could only imagine that this is maybe why you wanted to carry out the school and bringing in the pieces with the horses and everything. But could you maybe
Hmm.
tell us, like, when did you decide that this was where you were going to go, how you were going to walk your path?
Well, I had finished like my 500 hour recently, and then wanted to keep going on to my advanced into the 1,000 hours. And I
Hmm.
had thought about it, like, I think even shortly after our training, I'm like, oh, it'd be so amazing to have a yoga school one day. It was just something that was kind of a little seed always there,
Hmm.
thinking about having a yoga school and teaching yoga as well, just knowing the impact that I had on my own life, and wanting to share that with people. And there's not really, I don't think, a lot of yoga schools in the area anymore. I mean, there's so much online yoga. It's actually hard to compete with that in some ways, to be honest. But I don't know. It was just honestly a little seed that I think has been there since I finished my training and then started my business here with the retreats and the horse sessions. And then I'm like, if I would love to, train people to be yoga teachers so that they can experience yoga on whatever level that is for them. I think that we need more yoga teachers in the world. I think we need that personally. I think there's a lot of healing that needs to happen on our planet. And
Hmm.
I think that yoga is such a beautiful way to share with others. So it's our first years. A lot of people are really reaching out about the horses.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of letting the divine and letting that path kind of lead where it goes as well. I will be offering an equine-guided wellness training for people, like to teach people how to do this.
Hmm.
If it's because that's really where my passion is as well, is really blending in the yoga, blending in the horses, was why I want to do the yoga school. I want the nature piece and the horses to be a part of this training. You don't have to be with the horses if you don't want to. It's completely optional. But even just being near them, like I said, their heart, they can feel everything that's going on anyway in the house. So you'll get that power or even just going for a walk out near the horses on lunch breaks or breaks. I think could be really powerful for people. But yeah, it was just a seed that was planted years ago. And I'm really grateful that Tamika and Carolyn have offered their mentorship to help me on that path. I'm so grateful for it. And to really be David Tree, I just think their training is so exceptional. And the training that they offered in their training is just a piece that I'm so excited to be bringing into my school as well, is a lot of the David Tree lineage, to be really honest. And they've offered that with their full hearts. And I'm really grateful for them. So I'm really looking forward to sharing the horse to heart wellness and the David Tree, kind of blending them together and weaving something really incredibly beautiful.
How powerful for me to see how full circle everything's coming for you, Tammy. And where can people find out, like, where can they go to find out more about your training? Online, or you're on social media?
Yeah, I'm on social media. So it's Horse to Heart Yoga and Wellness is on social media, Instagram and Facebook. And then our website is horsetoheartwellness.com.
Okay, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that you wanted to add, or
I don't know. It's been
it's
great.
it
Thank you.
yeah, it's amazing when obviously this is the way that you lead your life. And thank you so much for joining me today. Like, again, I know that you're a busy woman, and I just so appreciate you. And I feel honored to have shared this time with you and our experiences being in the Kulas together and all
Yeah.
of that. Tammy, you are an amazing soul. And we're just so blessed to have you as part of the David Tree lineage. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Candace. It was a pleasure being here. It was so nice to see you and catch up.
Blessings.
Namaste, Candace.
Yay, you made it to the end of the Love Who You Are podcast. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and leave a review, or text a friend and share the love. These small actions make a big difference in this realm, and we thank you. And we have a present for you, a guide to creating and sustaining a home practice. In this free video, 7 experienced wellness leaders share what it takes to overcome the struggle of creating a home practice in anything: yoga, meditation, journaling, or whatever you'd love to do more of. You don't want to miss the wisdom of these incredible women. You'll find your free gift at devatree.com. That's DEVATREE.com. We'll see you next time, and know that you are loved.